Welcome back, Tribe. Somebody in the private community sent this video. Wanted me to cover it from John Griffin. We had one of his videos before related to not getting married. This one says why men are saying I don't to marriage.
Back in the old days, there was this silly little saying that mothers, and perhaps even fathers, would tell their daughters to help give them a moral compass when it came to some of the difficult things in life. They would say, honey, a man does not need to buy a cow if he's getting the milk for free. And of course, this little cryptic conversation had to do with sex. So why would a man marry a woman or give a woman his commitment if he's getting all the sex he needs for free? And so that's what I want to talk about today. Not cows, but sex. And how it's affecting our culture, not just women, but men, and how younger and younger women are being placed in a position where they have an enormous amount of pressure on them to start having sex at an earlier and earlier age. And as a culture and a society, we all have to deal with this because it's affecting us in negative ways that are far-reaching and have implications that I don't think we fully understand. So as a man, I've had a lot of free milk, and I hate to betray my brothers who also love their free milk, but I'm afraid the free milk is making us sick because we're getting way too much of it. And in the cultural arena of interpersonal relationships and the balance of, I hate to say power because that's such a loaded word, but there's an equilibrium that needs to occur between the genders in order for a society to be healthy and to prosper.
Yeah.
And the availability of free sex, and that's really what we have now. Sex has almost no value to men because
no value to women either. They call it, that one girl said it's as simple as a handshake. So we've detached any emotional attachment, any significance to the act of having sex to the point where it's so numb now that shaking hands. I mean, people think it's more intimate. I swear to you, man, there are people that literally will say kissing is more intimate than actually having sex. Like, oh, I'd rather turn a girl around and just back shots, or this guy gave me back shots and, but I don't do kissing. Like, kissing's a little too much. It's way too intimate. What the fuck society have we built where that's actually coming out of a person's mouth and they could say it with such confidence? Like, we are churning out destroyed people from broken homes. The state is enforcing these conditions where the men are kicked out of the house, where the woman's incentivized to leave, where the state comes and takes over, plays daddy by offering her trinkets, money, incentives, all that stuff. In other countries, like here in Eastern Europe, they don't offer women any of that. There's no support from the government. The government doesn't have money to support your ass. So leaving your man has far-reaching consequences. As far as the courts go and the biases, that doesn't exist here either. Like, the courts aren't going to ream you in the way they do in the United States, where you could lose everything, including your retirement. Like, she has access to your retirement. And there are multiple states where permanent alimony is still a thing. Imagine you permanently have to pay for a leech, while they could have a boyfriend on the side that's already supporting them. So they're just making free money. They never have to work. I mean, that's insane that the state is rewarding this kind of behavior. And we're surprised after decades and decades of this depravity, on top of society pushing degenerate views, morals, and values on people, telling them that they should be sexually liberated, that they should be gender fluid, that they should be experimenting with themselves, that you get a society full of broken people that can't connect with one another. And when two people that are somewhat decent even meet each other, they're too broken to make a connection, period. So they further the damage. It just spreads like wildfire. Damaged people damage other people. It's insane what we have in the West, man.
it's everywhere. We can get it anytime we want, whether it be, from a dating app or through pornography or by going and paying for it. I mean, sex is everywhere. So like in any other economy, if you increase the supply of something, the value of it is going to drop because the demand won't be nearly as high. And as a result, a lot of women I'm seeing are having difficulty finding men to marry. And that's a very complex situation too, because there's so many aspects to that. But just talking about the sex part of it, why would a man buy the cow if the milk is for free? I mean, really, cows are expensive to maintain, Cows can be troublesome. Cows break things. Have you ever had a cow in your house? Can you imagine? Cows can be very, very problematic. So, most men are not looking to buy cows these days.
Well, the economic reality of today is most men can't afford to buy a cow anyways. Even if they found a decent one, they can't afford it. And the cows these days have a lot of options because of dating apps. And the cows have given their milk away to the top farmers of the world. So when you come along, Mr. Average Farmer, who can't milk fast enough, you're getting replaced. You're not pampering the cow. Your pasture's not as big. Your feed is garbage. You're giving her low quality food. So the milk don't taste as good anyways. Hence attraction. Hence tolerating you. Hence dead bedroom. Hence fish sex. Like all the things we talk about on the channel, that's really what the reality is, man. It boils down to you competing versus other men in a society which has unlocked a women's dualistic mating nature. Now she has access to top quality men that not necessarily care about her for the long term. It's just fun, but she hopes and pines that she can tame the stallion, but the stallions will never be tamed because of all the options. So she's left to pick from pastures that are less green, feeding on dirt lots, producing jacked up milk, stables run down. You know what I mean? If we want to go with that analogy, that's what it is. Like a woman doesn't want to settle for less than the best that she's had because she thinks she deserves the best that she's able to get. Unfortunately, the best she's able to get was never interested in her, but her delusions are still placed that is now the standard when it was never the standard. It was simply a pump and dump. You're a wet hole. You got used and then you got dumped. But the only guy that really wanted to be with you was multiple levels below that. And you threw him away because you thought you could do better. And that's all technology has done is revealed women to the world for what they really are. They're dual mating strategies. Now, as a man that puts pressure on you locally, you got to compete now with a much larger pool of men. And essentially, men are being out-competed because the women are giving away all the milk to a few of the milkmen. It's not easy, dude. Honestly, if I was average dude completely with average salary, living in the West, not talking about any foreign women or anything, I wouldn't bother with getting married ever because I'm probably going to be settled for. There's like a 9 out of 10 chance that woman settled for me and had better. And I have a massive financial risk tied to me where if my marriage fails, when it will fail because I'm average and every other guy she's getting hit on by, if she's even remotely attractive, is probably in a better position than me, either physically or financially. And it's a matter of time before she breaks, before an argument starts, before she's done tolerating me and then she leaves. So yeah, the brutal truth is for the bottom percentile of men, marriage is fucking garbage. You will be taken to the cleaners. It's unfortunate to say, but the fact that women have access to so many men, we're no longer tied to our little villages or our little towns that we lived in. And you had to settle with, the boy next door's family and all that stuff. And he comes from a good family and your parents know his parents. And those days are long gone now. The advent of the internet, we have worldwide connection. The dating pools have become insanely large. I would avoid it completely.
In heterosexual relationships, women have always been the guardians of sex, and men have always been the guardians of commitment. Right now, the gates of sex have been broken down. There are no guardians for that anymore. So the doors to sex are open all the time. So there is really no reason for men to provide commitment in exchange for sex. So the fact that women are struggling to find men is probably not a surprise, because what we've created here is a polygamous society. We no longer have a monogamous society. We have a fairly small percentage of men having lots and lots of sex and a very large number of women competing for that small group of men. And a large percentage of those men really have no reason to give their commitment because the sex is so free and cheap to them. So you can see how the current structures in our society are not working for anyone. They don't work for men because the vast majority of men are finding it more and more difficult to find a partner because they're all looking towards the high level men, the good looking, wealthy guys. And the vast majority of women, perhaps even all women, or a high number of women, high percentage of women, are really struggling to find a good man because most of the guys that are in alignment with them, say on the status ladder, when you combine attractiveness and education and money and all that stuff, well, they're not interested in them anymore, especially for a commitment. And then all the high status guys, well, they have no incentive to give you a commitment. So you can see that if the gates of sex are no longer guarded and the milk is free, there's no reason for monogamous relationships any longer.
Unless you're religious, unless you have a traditional conservative background and you want a strong, stable family structure with the nuclear and extended families present, you do get married and you raise kids under one household. You don't further perpetuate the broken houses that we're creating here by just milking the cows and getting them pregnant. And then you got a bunch of single parent homes running around because the guy's just busy porking a bunch of other women, and you're just like perpetuating the issue. We have to go back to basics here. We have to make it so the government punishes adultery, punishes breaking the marriage contract, like financial punishment. Like the person who commits, say, for example, adultery should be fined, bro. There should be a fine. You entered a marriage contract and you should be fined, whether it's paying more taxes next year for breaking your vows or owing a lump sum amount after divorce to your ex-spouse. Bet you a lot less people would get married. Those shotgun marriage types that are just like, oh, we met one day, boom, let's get married. Wow. Or the people that don't take their marriage vows seriously, because you shouldn't be getting the benefits from the state that you do. And also to further get people to marry and be under one household, we need to provide much stronger incentives for them. The current tax breaks you get for being married are fucking dog shit. We need to do better. As far as housing goes, it's the number one problem people talk about. Instability with housing as far as raising a family and having kids goes. The government needs to have an incentive program where they'll provide you with a loan to buy a house with a record low or zero interest rate. And for every kid you have, you get 25% of the loan paid off. So 4 kids means your whole loan's paid off. Wow, how beautiful is that? Who wouldn't want to get into a house and pop 4 kids out? Because those 4 kids are going to grow to pay God knows how much in taxes. And so the system will self-sustain through population booms where people can get some level of stability. Now, there was a pragmatic individual that has done that already and turned his country into a superpower. It didn't end well for him, but that's life. There's a lot to unpack with that one, but there are certain policies the government could institute today to reverse all this degeneracy, but that doesn't pay because keeping us divided means people never ask questions about why society's so fucked up. We're all barely struggling to survive, living check to check. Can't look up and point the fingers at the people legislating and passing on the laws, can we? All the politicians and the fucking bullshit they spill on the campaign trail that they'll never keep these promises. You'll be forgotten about once your vote is cast. We're sick of it. It's been 60 fucking years of going downhill with both of these parties. We don't even have a choice anymore. It's Tweedledee and Tweedledumbass. One of them is going to drive the country to the ground. The other one's already too old, but we have no choice because the other one's a cackling moron. One looks like he has a cabinet being built of decent individuals that could maybe put a dent in the decline, but overall the decline is still going to happen unless we have a radical change in the way we see ourselves in this country and the way we treat families and what it means to be American. This culture rot will not get reversed with the next 4 years. It took 60, 70, 80 years to get here. It's going to take another 60 plus years to reverse this shit. Why? Because half of the population, damn near half, support the other side. That's pushing these progressive liberal ideas. Dude, half of your countrymen. And can you imagine? It has widespread support. And they actively vote against their own interests. So there's going to be a lot of issues that we got to deal with on the long term, but we're in a society of kicking the can down the road, unfortunately. I don't see the brain rot, the culture rot going away anytime soon. And for a normal man, like an average dude, how do you prepare for this? Well, you have to first set yourself up financially, which means you have to take a dead-end bullshit job that pays you very little. You have barely any money to save. You got to live with roommates. You got to scrounge up enough pennies. You got to have a decent idea for a side business or become self-employed. Rather, go to trade school, learn a skill, become self-employed, work for yourself. I'm not saying you have to have a business with employees and shit. I'm saying, but just be an independent contractor. Take jobs and get paid directly. No middleman, no company paying you as an employee. You pay yourself. If the job costs $3,000 to wire something or do someone's plumbing, you get the full $3,000 minus what it costs to get the materials. That's it, dude. You have to learn to be self-sufficient. That's the only way to freedom. I'm not saying you'll be a multi-millionaire, but you could break into the 6 figures with a skill like that in the world today. So a man can become self-sufficient and financially independent if he teaches himself a valuable skill, plus utilize the power of the internet, make some good investment choices over the long term once you start earning some decent money and you can't find your freedom. A shortcut to it all is going overseas and just using the power of the dollar. If you already can work remotely in some fashion, or you have already busted your ass and you're older like this dude, and you might have, retirement accounts, investment accounts, passive income from properties, dividends, all that stuff, you go overseas and live like a king on $3,000, $4,000 a month. Easy, right? You could cut your expenses in America down a third, down to a quarter without losing many amenities. There's options, and then you will have a whole different culture overseas, but that comes with its own issues like language barrier and all that other shit. So it's, trade-offs, bro. The best that you can do is to become financially self-sufficient. Then you surround yourself with like-minded people. Make sure you work for yourself. Go to the gym for yourself. Stop focusing on women. Stop trying to get laid by going to the gym and getting jacked for women. Building a business to earn more money for women. None of this shit is for women, guys. You're supposed to do this shit for yourself because women come and go. Women aren't a good motivator, a good discipline fuel. It's Monday chick, Tuesday chick, Wednesday chick. It doesn't matter. It's this chick for a year, that chick for 3 years. It doesn't matter. They come and go. It's very rare for you. It takes a lifetime probably nowadays, up until your late 30s or something, to meet a decent person if you're fishing in the toxic pools that are the West, right? But when you find, if you're lucky enough to find a decent individual, that's where all this hard work comes and pays off because you already stand on your own. You're economically independent of whatever happens. Should you choose to get married, have kids, start this whole family and American dream, if it all goes south on you, you can stand on your own 2 feet. You won't get completely wrecked. You become resistant instead of dependent on your partner. That's really the only way for an average dude to protect himself, is shielding yourself legally with your earnings. Think like a trust account, stuff like that, blind trust, and just picking a decent woman that most likely has to come from overseas or that immigrated to America and lived as a first generation immigrant somewhere else. Because getting a normal American woman that has gone to college, that has all the markers we want to avoid, the tattoos, the piercings, the entitlement, loud, rude, masculine, strong, independent energy. I don't need a man. Let's go 50-50 on everything. Blah, 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 blah. That's masculine energy. If you get yourself a typical masculine Western woman, you're in for a world of hurt. This is why so many men go overseas, because they're looking for feminine women. It's not that the women here aren't beautiful, that you can't find beautiful women apart from like the massive obesity problem. But in general, dude, there are absolutely drop dead gorgeous women in any city. It's the issue is the mentality. You can't find somebody with a mentality that's geared toward long-term relationships, marriage, children, coming together to create something far greater than the one could by themselves. That whole notion of marriage and your vows is done. Sex is a handshake, remember? The joke.
I think that back in caveman days, before we had marriage, this is kind of what it was like. Few guys got all the sex. They would have sex with lots and lots of women. And most of the guys would not get any sex, and none of the women would get any kind of commitment. So there'd be a lot of uncommitted women running around, and a few very happy guys, a lot of very frustrated guys, and a lot of undefended women. And I think that's where we're headed right now. I think we're reverting back to our primal roots, if you will. But when it comes to this issue, it's very clear. It's common sense. This ain't working. This just ain't going to work. And if we don't change it, it's just going to get worse. We could find ourselves back in some form of, relationship anarchy, and that doesn't benefit anyone. In fact, we may already be there. So I'm not some religious nut, and I certainly don't support people like Clarence Thomas and their draconian, government has the right to tell you what to do with your body and how people should behave in their private lives. But at the same time, I do see on a cultural level where we are really struggling when it comes to interpersonal relationships. And a lot of that has to do with, I hate to say it, but the sexual revolution and really what has emerged as an increasing amount of very toxic femininity in our culture. And when I talk about toxic femininity, I'm not talking about just some hyperbolic way to discuss aggressive women, but as a pathological ailment that is permeating every aspect of our culture, where women are using sex as a tool to manipulate men, and women are using marriage solely as a way to advance their lives financially, and the level of commitment between men and women has degraded to such a place that it's just purely a crapshoot as to whether any relationship will last more than a decade. I mean, the number of single mothers there are in the Western world is increasing so that they make up the majority of families. I mean, I think it's 51, 52% of families are run by a woman. So this is a problem. This isn't good for anyone. And I think that at its core, one of the problems that we're facing is the easy availability and access that men have to sex. Women's use of sex as a tool, overtly. I mean, I think women have always used sex as a tool to some degree, but it was in the withholding of sex. And that was the manipulation in the dating process that kept the man's attention and became part of the exchange of goods, if you will, a man's commitment for a woman's sexuality and intimacy as a free exchange. That was part of the agreement. But now when men are getting sex all over the place, I mean, there's no place you can go and not get sex, then, that exchange now loses a lot of its value, and the incentive for men to be involved in relationships with women has reduced significantly. And you throw on top of that, we've had this generation, actually maybe 3 generations of the government intervening on behalf of women, treating them like minorities as a disadvantaged group and giving them an advantage in college applications, creating diversity requirements at jobs, creating set-asides in government contracts, making it more and more available and possible for women to succeed in business, which is wonderful. On one level, I think, hey, it's great. Everyone should have their shot at it. But then as these more and more successful women who by their nature tend to have this hypergamous desire to marry up and find a higher value man, well, the dating pool for most men kind of dries up because every woman thinks she's a high value woman and she needs a higher value man. And the truth of the matter is most of these very high value men have no use for most of these women, quite honestly. I mean, if you're a career woman, let's say you've gone to all this schooling and you're a lawyer and you're, single in your early 30s and you want to have a family, and you've got to marry up. You want to find a more successful man to marry. So maybe you find the CEO of some company, who was maybe 10 years older than you, and you tell him that you guys have a romance and you start talking about marriage. Well, what's the incentive in that for him? He's already got everything he needs. He does not need you. There's no value that you're bringing to his life. So if you want to have children, well, maybe he would like to have children, but I mean, he doesn't have to get married to have children. I mean, the world's a big place. You can get surrogates. You can do a lot of things to have children. I mean, if his desire is for children, he doesn't need you for that. He doesn't need you for money. So the fact that you have a good career doesn't offer him anything of value. You're not giving him something he doesn't already have. So what you're really saying is you want him to support you while you're giving birth and having children, but then you're going to go back to your job and he's going to have to pay someone now to watch these children. And now he's got to pay someone to clean his house and take care of his household.
Yeah, look how different it is here for me, for example. You don't have to talk about cooking. You don't have to talk about cleaning. You don't have to talk about support, whether emotional, psychological, physical, whatever the fuck, dude. Gender roles are clearly defined here, okay? It's not seen as beneath you to do the laundry as a woman for the house. It's not seen as beneath you to wash the dishes. I get yelled at if I touch the dishes or if I try to put clothes in the washing machine. Literally got yelled at because that's her job. Get away from there. What are you doing? Go to work. Go do whatever it is that you're doing, because they want to feel like they're pulling their weight, like they're providing value, like they're doing their job as a woman. Now, in the West, that would be seen as asinine, like, oh my God, internalized misogyny. You're supporting the patriarchy. You're setting us back 100 years. Marriage is emotional labor. Like, they've termed things so extreme when it was just two people coming together to help one another. Like, you help your man in a marriage, the outcome for you gets better as well. Like, why do women think like being combative, masculine, and always arguing with your man is going to get you the results you think you want to get? Like, be nurturing, be gentle, be supportive, and your man will break his back for you to get you what you want, to solve your problems. Men are problem solvers. But you're never going to get a man to move up off his ass and do something for you if you just yell at him all day. He'll just tune you out and shut you out completely. He shuts down. That's it. Women have forgotten this soft power that they have over men. And so when a woman is at home cooking, cleaning, I mean, the air just smells fresh with like a king's feast being prepared. No nagging, dressing beautiful, looking her best, all that stuff. Dude, the guy's going to feel like he's the luckiest man in the world and is going to be thinking about, shit, I need to do more. I want to make her dreams come true. I want to buy this woman the world. I want to do everything in my power to give her everything she deserves. Like, a man naturally thinks of this stuff. Women have like completely forgotten that men are just wired this way. Instead, they think if they're going to be a boss babe, masculine like men, combative, right? Conflict driven, and try to beat a man down into submission, like, you're going to lose that battle 100% of the time. Your man will either shut down or completely ignore you. And your relationship is going to head down a road you'll never come back from, which is divorce or breaking up if it's short term and not married. They don't get it though, dude. Help your man become the best he can be, which then puts him in a position to make you the best he could possibly be. Like, you want more money. You want your man to earn more. You want him to do more around the house. You want him to achieve the dreams you have of a bigger house, big family, all this stuff. Support him, nurture him, clean, give him massages, have sex. Don't argue. Be submissive. Do these basic things, and the guy's going to wake up with a spring in his step and absolutely go out there ready to conquer the world every day for you, because he can't wait to get home to see you, to be with you, to give you the things that puts a smile on your face. When you don't provide that, the dude rather just dick around at the bar with the friends after work, put in overtime just because he can't stand being at home, dragging his feet at work because he's so exhausted psychologically from being beat down at home constantly by a nagging wife. Like, it sucks the soul, the competition out of a man to be dealing with that kind of woman. That's why these guys that get out of these divorces after having their souls drained from them and becoming husks of what they used to be when they first met, that you see them like moping and doping around. I lost everything. I lost myself. I don't even know who I am. Oh gosh, she just walked all over me. I couldn't say no. I was being yelled at for every little thing in the house, like walking on eggshells. Yeah, dude, you're a captive in your own house. Imagine that. The king is a captive, a slave in his own kingdom. That's crazy. But it happens to so many men.
Where is the advantage in this for a man? I don't see it. And I think most men don't see it. So the reason why most women, or a lot of women, are struggling to find the man they want to marry is twofold. One, most men think that it's too much trouble and too much of a hassle to get into a relationship with a woman because, quite honestly, women bring a lot of emotion into a man's life, and men have a difficult time managing strong emotions, and women can cause a lot of disruption in a man's life. To the sexuality part of it, it's like, men don't need you for sex. They can go anywhere. There's lots of women that'll give them sex cheaply, you know? They don't need to give a commitment to get sex. And money, most men are pretty good at managing their money. Most men can manage their money pretty well, and they don't need you to do that. So I am at a loss for how Western civilization continues unless there's some significant changes in our culture. And that,
I think naturally that'll occur, because although all the libbies, all the progressives are going to die out because they're not having kids. They see kids as like disrupting the, what do they say? It's going to be the end of the world. We're having a population boom, and like too many people are taking up too many space and resources. So if you care about climate control, global warming, climate change, you're going to have less kids. So they're already like natalist societies, anti-natalist, in thinking, and they will eliminate themselves over a few generations, which is why they're so interested in your children. Can't touch that one though. I'll read a few of the comments here. Sex is widely available until you get married, that is. 12 years ago, truly loved a woman but didn't want to get married and have kids. Just wanted to enjoy life together. She cried and spoke for months about how she wanted marriage and family together. So I married her, was faithful to her, never touched her in anger, gave her children. 10 years later, she filed for divorce. Never again. Modern women and family law just cannot be trusted. Recently divorced after 14 years. This is her third failed marriage. Boy, you should have knew from the first two. We have no children together, but I raised her son. You got it from her first marriage. You see Beta Bucks over here. She has devastated me financially, mentally, and emotionally. Duh, you were the bailout for her first two mistakes. If there are any young men out there who are on the fence about marriage, wait. Think. If she gives you an ultimatum, do not get married. Live your life. She's not what she seems. Please, I implore you to stand up for yourself. Exactly, because this dude never stood up for himself. Some of these comments are brutal. I got to really break them down, though. Dated a girl for 1.5 years. She just started a company. I make 10 times what she makes. She pushed for marriage. I wouldn't sign, wouldn't sign a prenup and wanted me to move to the city she wanted. She eventually gave me an ultimatum. I said, bye. The milk is never free. You pay one way or another. But the highest price to get this milk is to marry. After you find out your cow don't give you milk anymore because she gives the milk to someone else. Never your cow. Greetings from Germany. It's not your cow. It's just your turn to milk it. Oh, man. Let me know what you guys think, and subscribe to the second channel if you haven't. We post videos there almost daily. Check out some of the private chats we have with the community. And if you're looking for a place to have, similar discussions, or if anything piques your interest about self-improvement and getting better, I implore you to sign up, join, and have a conversation with me and the rest of the community, and pass around some wisdom and maybe make a difference in your life. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's video, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everybody.